Guide. I'm Adrienne Klein, the Director of Programs and Community Engagement at the Oregon Bioscience Incubator here, and I am so glad that you are with us today. Before we get started, we have just a few housekeeping notes, so we ask that you please stay muted during the session. Please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat because we would love to know who's joining us today. And feel free to submit your questions in the chat. We'll be monitoring those and answering them as they come in. I will share my LinkedIn in the chat so you can connect with me, and I also encourage you to connect with my colleagues that are with me here today. First, we have Kirsten Santana. She is the Programs Coordinator here at the Oregon Bioscience Incubator. We have Lisa Ornley-Hunt, our Controller and Financials Operations here. And Heather Ellis, our Executive Director. Links to their LinkedIn profiles will be in the chat, so feel free to connect with them. Next up, we have our land acknowledgement. Otrati would like to acknowledge the land we are all on, wherever we may be. Otrati conducts business throughout Portland and beyond and is making an effort to acknowledge the history of the area and work towards decolonization of the bioscience industry. To learn more about Portland's native, diverse, and vibrant community, please read Leading with Tradition, a document created by the Portland Indian Leaders Roundtable, and we'll put a link in the chat for you to look at that. I'm super excited to tell you about some upcoming events we have. Trivia is back. So on Thursday, February 19th, we have Think and Drink Trivia, an amazing time. Starts at 5:30 right here at the Oregon Bioscience Incubator. We also have our Accelerate Biotech Happy Hour coming up on Thursday, March 5th. And of course, you can visit our website to find out about all the upcoming events we have going on. We would love to see you. At the end of the session here, a survey is going to pop up, so your feedback helps us improve. Please take a moment to complete it. Your responses help shape future improvements and ensure that we're bringing programs that fit your needs. I'm really pleased to welcome Tiffanie Clifford, President of Think Ahead, who's joining us for today's Lunch and Learn, Built from the Core, Values That Guide. Tiffanie brings more than 20 years of experience across HR, learning and development, and organizational development with a background that includes both consulting and senior level HR and L&D leadership roles. She's often described as a supervisor for her passion for mentoring leaders and building strong value-driven teams. And you can also connect with her in the chat. We'll put her LinkedIn there for you. So with that, I'll turn things over to Tiffanie to get us started. Welcome, Tiffanie.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me here today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in just a second, but would love if you guys would, in the chat, go ahead and drop your first name. And I'm curious about a person who's really helped shape your values. This could be a hero. It could be a family member. Let's go ahead and get our chat going while I get this presentation up. And Adrienne or Kirsten, if you could help me start sharing whose people's names are and if they have, right, that person that's really helped shape their values. I'm curious.
So we've got Kevin says, shaped enormously by one of my early mentors and coaches.
Okay.
And Heather says, person who has really shaped my values, both my kids.
Oh, okay. Learning from our littles, huh? Okay. Certainly, we've all had coaches that we admire or think back to, even a teacher, perhaps. These are folks that have been with us a long time and know us dearly, right? And they help shape our values and how we show up in the world or how we want to show up in the world. Okay.
Kirsten says, a person who has really shaped my values is my parents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you mind sharing a little more about that?
Jan also says same here. So I mean, same for the parents or kids.
Okay. A lot of family members. All right.
Yep.
I know.
Shaped by families in need of my past working place.
Okay.
Yeah, parents. Yeah.
Parents. Okay. I certainly had a very influential grandma who helped me really stick to it and finish college. She was
Mhm.
certainly my champion in that realm. And how it's really shaped our whole family is that if she hadn't gone to college, which back in the 1930s, right, was quite a feat, none of us would have went either. And so
Right.
education really became um, dearly held by all of us.
I love that.
Okay.
Linda
Well,
also says parents. So lots of
okay.
parents in the
A lot of
chat.
parent. Okay, a lot of family. Okay. This will be important as we journey through our talk today. Um, when we think about folks who are our champions when things get tough and we perhaps we need more support and we're visualizing who that is on our personal board of directors. Certainly parents can show up, family members. I think kids could be really wild and fun, Heather. Okay.
It looks like we have one last one to come in. So actually says my abusive family taught me what to avoid, what not to be, if that makes sense.
It certainly does. Sometimes examples in life are what we choose not to pursue or not to be like.
Mhm.
Um, Often in our own leadership journeys, we have that poster of who's a great leader, and then the reverse, right? Who is perhaps not a great leader we want to follow or emulate. Well, thank you all for sharing. I'm delighted to be here with you today and talk about core values. Even if you haven't identified your values in the past, by all means, now is a good time to do so. So, values in real life. Um, we are going to talk about identifying your values. I've got an exercise for you to do in just a few moments. But this question I have for you, I want you to start thinking about it because later on in our talk, we're going to use it for an example. So think about a recent decision related to perhaps regulations or funding, whether that's right an angel investor or maybe even a bank. If you're hiring, have you right had that opportunity to widen your team and bring on an employee? By all means, research and development or even go or no go decisions on timelines. I would be curious, like, what was the most, what value most influenced that decision? I want to give you a minute here. Think of a decision and then think of a value. And if we can come off mute, I'd love to hear from you guys. Just what's that one word? What comes to mind? And it's okay to think for a minute.
Well, the first one that comes to mind for me is growth,
Okay.
personal growth.
Mm-hmm. So that was a decision. Was there a value
Mhm.
behind that?
No, that was the value.
Okay.
The decision was whether or not I was going to take on some specific work.
Okay.
And as I thought about it, I was kind of on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So there were some attractions, and then there were some things where I just felt like, no, it's not a fit. And then I thought, well, no, the reasons it's not a fit could provide a real opportunity for growth. And so
Okay.
go into it, just lean
Mm-hmm.
into it. And if it doesn't work out, it's not a lifetime decision, but just lean into it with a spirit of openness, curiosity, willingness to allow something to unfold that I might not be envisioning right now.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask if that was new ground for you to pursue for professional growth? Was it a new
It's
skill set or?
quasi new ground. It was a new client to work with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's speaks to right innovation and being open, your words, right? That this
Yeah.
could be a stretch, but a good stretch. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who had a thought around a recent decision that comes to mind? The one that I have also recently experienced, Kevin, which is very similar to yours, is working on a project. My core values are courage, collaboration, compassion, and curiosity. And working with the nonprofit this last fall, I didn't realize it at the time when I originally scoped the project, but for me, collaboration showed up with the board chair and the executive director each Tuesday morning at 8. And for us, right, the project was strategic planning, and that doesn't happen in a vacuum. And we were so fortunate to have that board chair's influence and energy that whole 3 months. If we hadn't had it, the plan wouldn't have been near as successful as how we ended it 3 months later. And so for me, to your point, Kevin, it really was, okay, I should have been really clear up front. Who are all the players and how do they need to be involved early on? Because that's what led to a much more successful project than either one of us thought in the beginning. Like, should the board chair attend? Should they not? Um, and thankfully, we had decided more collaboration was better. And again, the strategic plan was just a whole lot more holistic and inclusive because of both of their input. All right. Well, I want you guys to hold on to that decision recently that you've made, because we'll use it in just probably about a good 15 minutes. As we begin our workshop today, I always like to lean in and talk about learning expectations. By all means, this is interactive, whether you feel more comfortable sharing on chat or coming off mute, but be sure to share airspace, balancing your contributions with others. We may have differing views during this chat, but that's okay. And if you have questions, I know Adrian and Kirsten, you guys are kind of monitoring the chat for me, but feel free to jump in anytime. So our learning objectives today are goals. We're going to do a quick exercise around identifying your core values. This shapes your professional life and certainly your personal life. If you haven't heard of a framework called the Values Anchored Decision Tool, I'm going to introduce you to it. At the end of this presentation, I know we're going to share these documents with you, so know that that's coming to your inbox afterward. And talk also about some actionable strategies like your own personal boardroom that will help you really stick these values into action from here and here on out. Today, we're talking about values, and I like to show a visual, which is a compass, right? Values are supposed to be our North Star. They're not supposed to be just printed on the wall in our conference room. We're supposed to be living our values, and whether that comes in how we inform our decision-making, which we'll talk about in the last part, but also when we're aligned with our values, how much more motivated and clear we are in our work. It certainly guides your leadership. I think we've all worked for those great bosses and perhaps want to be a best CEO of our own organization. And certainly for you guys in this bioscience aspect, how your values are shaping your services and the products you're developing that haven't even come to market yet. Okay, so here's that first activity. Adrian, if one of you could put this link in the chat. So change requires action and action requires courage. If you don't know about Brené Brown, a lot of her work has been centered on vulnerability and leadership. But what we're going to use today is it's just a quick 3 pages, but it's her values document. What I'm going to ask is you go ahead, follow the link out. It'll take you to downloading a PDF. It's 3 pages. And we're going to take our time. I'm going to say what time is it right now, Adrian? If we can give ourselves.
It's 12:15.
12:15. Let's go ahead and take our time until 12:25 with this document. It's 3 pages, and I want to talk you through the directions first. So while you're downloading, catch your breath, get a cup of coffee. You've got a good 10 minutes. What it's going to ask you to do is first take a look at there's a list of values at the tail end. So on page 3 of the document, you're going to go ahead and circle 2, maybe 3 of the values that are beliefs that are most important to you. They help you find your way in the dark. They're core values to you. It may be something, that your family saw in you early on, because it fills you with that sense of purpose. As you determine what those 2 or maybe 3 core values are for yourself, then the directions take you back to the first page. So it's a little jolting, to go to page 3 and then back to page 1. And I would like you to journey through these questions because it's asking you, how do your behaviors show up when things are going well? But then also, right, what happens when the behaviors get pushed, right? And our core values were perhaps in a time crunch, we don't have all the information we need, right? And what really is prioritized. So invite you to come off camera, have quiet for a good 10 minutes, see you back at 12:25. Any questions turning, right? Hopefully you can get back on camera and you've got your values ready. So here's our next steps. Hopefully you've identified just even what those top two values are. You might have circled more on the page. Could we go ahead and share some of those values in the chat? I had shared earlier on, mine are courage, collaboration, compassion, and courage. And for me, this really shows up in, right, the projects I work on and who I serve. We have some of those values coming through in the chat, Adrian.
Not yet. They might still be formulating.
Okay, we'll give it a few. Do you want to share yours?
Oh, sure. I also like courage. I feel
Okay.
like most of my job is courage.
Helping people step into the new.
Yeah. We have J8 says honesty and enjoy life.
Okay.
And then Camilla says integrity and creativity.
Love that. Okay.
We can also encourage them to go off mute and say it out loud
Sure.
if they would like to.
By all means, if that's easier.
Kevin says belonging, making a difference. Kuri says integrity, excellence, independence. Terry is saying learning, truth, and courage. Oh, courage comes up a lot today.
All right, that's right. You
Xiao
guys are
Xun
courageous.
is very important. Yeah. Xiao Xun says family, contribution, and teamwork.
Great contribution. All right.
Curiosity and kindness. Learning, fairness, and growth.
I'm curious if anyone, right, had a value that wasn't listed that they just wanted to say as well.
Oh, that's a great question. Did anyone have a value that wasn't listed?
It's a long list, but it's not everything. There could be another. There's always room.
Self-awareness.
Right.
Oneness. That's a good one.
Well, and as you have determined these values, and I just love the first page that talks about, what are one or two behaviors that support your value? So when we're in alignment. So for me, right, if one of my core values is collaboration, it's working in a team. And the second question, which was, right, what are one or two slippery behaviors that are outside of your value? So for me, that's right, when I start looking at my day and going, okay, how much am I working alone versus working in a team? How does that show up as, right, my core values? Would anyone like to share how these top two values are shaping their decision making in business? It's okay to take your time.
Hello, sound test. I was wondering if you folks can hear me.
Sure can. Go ahead.
Oh, certainly. Hi, Vadim here. I posted curiosity and kindness. Everything we do in business, if we show curiosity, it shows we're willing to learn from the moment, the person, or the situation. If we show kindness, it means we're actually paying attention to the situation as per the context of the person we're working with. So if you're showing curiosity, it could mean to a business goal. How is this working? How is this not working? Every step, this is an important thing to check. And curiosity of the past. How has this worked? How has this not worked? So we could learn for the future. But if you're only driving business goals, but not paying attention to how the people that you're working with, whether it's partners, collaborators, your employees, if you're not showing kindness towards where they're at in the process, you're completely disconnected from how you're going to get there, what they're benefiting from this specific process, and what the business is going to move like in the near future.
And so for you, could that be organizations that are employee first?
Yeah, I think employee first ties into some of these values, definitely.
Mhm. And when you think about curiosity and not just a focus on your business goals, but also how you treat your people, I agree there's a very good balance there. A best practice, right? How some of that decision making comes up in your everyday life is, do we even have a framework around how we are showing up toward those business goals? For example, if we're showing up with curiosity, are we doing project debriefs? Are we doing product debriefs as a best practice? Mm-hmm. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing.
Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to share as well or put something in the chat? All right, then we're going to go ahead and keep chugging here. So the second part of our talk today is really how those values are shaping your decisions. And we'll talk about a framework in just a second. It's kind of a mouthful. But really, when it comes down to it, how do your values shape, right, your products and services, Vadim, to your point, the kind of organization perhaps we're choosing to build or will work for? Perhaps that's people first, which I love. Um, when you think about your own leadership style, I know earlier on someone had shared, right, perhaps what we don't want to show up as, because that's really your personal brand. And ultimately, right, what kind of work are we doing? Who are we serving? And if it is with kindness and curiosity in our communities, who might that ideal client be? Or, right, what is that service or product that our community needs from us that we're creating right now? Okay, so the framework that I referenced earlier is called Values Anchor Decision Tool. This will be sent to you after the presentation. We'll get a PDF put together of this and get it sent out to you along with the PowerPoint if you'd like. The basics behind this is just a couple, I think there's 5 questions, but the first one is naming that decision clearly. So I tried to pull together a bioscience example. Please correct me if I'm off base here. So the question is, do we accelerate this milestone with incomplete data? Perhaps you've seen and experienced this yourself already in your career. But the next part is identifying those top maybe 3 values that are at stake. And I really use that frame wisely because at stake, perhaps there is, perhaps you're in a time crunch. Perhaps you have incomplete data to this point in this example. Perhaps your investors aren't in alignment with this project. Well, there's a lot at stake here for you and your dream, right, for what you're creating. So which values are being tested right now? Can you name them? For example, I pulled out just safety and scientific integrity. If you're accelerating this milestone past what would be acceptable standards. So understanding what the decision is, identifying values, then you're going to ask this wicked hard question, which is for each of those values. This is a discipline question, which is, right, if we fully honored this value, what would we do? And that might seem like a simple question, but boy, is that a hard one. A recent example just from my own work experiences. I was working with an organization, and if one of my core values is collaboration, which I shared earlier, we would get all the way to the date of the meeting, and then it would be a cancellation. And we'd get all the way up to the date of the meeting or write a big analysis or anything. And unfortunately, the client would cancel. So for me, without having that collaboration at the table and in a timely fashion, we couldn't move the project forward. So in this situation, right, do we accelerate the milestone with incomplete data? How does that really show up when it comes to safety? Are we missing steps? Are we skirting our protocols? But the discipline question of if we fully honored this value, what would we do? Helps provide that clarifying moment for you, and I think slows us down in a good way. If, say, for example, you're identifying 4, 5, or 6 different values at stake, I would ask you to go back to step 1, name the decision even more clearly and clarify. Because This is our next step. We're going to choose a lead value, even if it costs you something. For example, in this situation, right, we're going to delay by 6 weeks because of scientific rigor and patient safety. That's what led to this decision. Does that help clarify what the framework looks like to everybody? Adrian, did we have any questions coming through on the chat?
No new questions.
Okay. So earlier on, we talked about who shapes our values, and a lot of folks had shared, right, family or even a coach, perhaps a teacher early on or a mentor at work. But we've journeyed through identifying your values, and then we're on this leg of decisions. So what is a recent decision that you've been faced with? Take a moment, list your values, and then what might be that lead value that comes to mind that will help you restate your decision in a more aligned way. And again, let's take a good 5 minutes. Would love for you guys to, okay. Well, thanks everyone for taking that time and thinking about a recent decision. I know I had shared earlier the client who kept, right, unfortunately canceling day of meetings or data analysis day of meetings. And so in this case, for my own self, how my value showed up, which is collaboration, was we determined as a team that if we didn't have a full draft of that executive presentation a week prior, we were going to cancel and reschedule for the first quarter of the next year. So for us, it was really standing on that we really have to see a draft before we can move forward with an executive presentation. Did we have anyone who was up for volunteering or willing to share in the chat? Even if you're not ready to share today, taking your time going through recent decisions that you've been making and make every day against your values will provide that clarity and that alignment that you've been looking for, so that you are living a values-driven life, right? And also your businesses and your purpose are fulfilled even moving forward. All right, so we're going to keep going. I think maybe if the PowerPoint will cooperate here. When we think about additional resources for you, your boardroom. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this before, but it's visualizing what your boardroom is, all the way from, right, what's the kind of table you're sitting at, how many chairs, is there a window in that boardroom? And more importantly, thinking about the people who support you. Many of you shared family members early on, or a coach or a teacher, or even a professional mentor. Who are these people that support us no matter what? They are your boardroom. They're there no matter what. And on the second page of that Brene Brown worksheet, she talks about that. Like, who shows up when things are tough? And you do need that support long term. I know, Adrian, you guys are intentionally building community around offering workshops, but also, right, what other resources OBI is creating within the community as an organization. I also ask you to think about former colleagues, right, that you've been in touch with. Maybe it's been a while, but it's worth getting back in touch. Those are the folks that have known you, and I'm sure would be delighted to help grow you and serve as a mentor or a coach as well. All right, so as we're wrapping up today, you've already identified those top 2 or 3 values. Knowing those values creates alignment long term, especially in the products and the services that you're creating or that you will serve in your future. You've got that decisions framework in hand, and we'll send it to you at the end of the presentation as well. But helps you think about when you have competing values, especially when timelines are tough and perhaps you don't have all the information you need to feel like you've made a good decision. And also those additional resources like your boardroom, colleagues, right, folks even in this community, how you can reach out and help serve each other over the long haul, because your values stay with you your whole life. So keep in touch. Thanks, everybody. And my values, right? It takes courage to stay curious and collaborate, and look forward to hearing any questions you guys may have as we wrap up today. Thanks.
Yeah, now's a good time to get all your questions answered. So feel free to put your questions in the chat and I'll read them out loud.
Okay.
Or take yourself off mute and feel free to just talk directly to us. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
First
What
of all,
can we
thank you
help?
so much for the presentation. If I may ask, I think
Yeah.
it'd be great to hear any recent examples, or even in the last 10, 20, 30 years, of a company making a decision. Maybe even a company a lot of people recognize, making a decision that is clearly values-based, and where that decision brought them either success or greater employee retention, or maybe even a worldwide benefit where people said, you guys clearly made less money, but everybody remembered you and came back to you later on.
I have an
That is a
example.
tough one. um,
I have an
I can
example.
go ahead.
Arizona Tea Company. Everybody keeps telling them to raise their prices, and they're like, "We're still in the black. We're still making profit. So no, we're not gonna."
Mhm.
Yep.
I was thinking about even just during the pandemic, Bath and Body Works was still cranking out right their hand sanitizers. And remember how tough it was to even get hand sanitizer? They never raised their prices. They could have tripled them, but they chose not to. A really old example to your point was Microsoft. What feels like more than 15, almost 20 years ago, they got in trouble because they kept long-term um, contractors and didn't offer them the health benefits they should have in retirement benefits as employees. And that really shifted, I think, tech in general around, right? Do we keep folks as subcontractors or do we keep them as employees based on the nature of the work that they're doing? But that was a hard lesson learned. Mhm.
Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. Great question. Okay, Adrian, I think if that's it, that's what I had today. I look forward to keeping in touch and good luck with the good work you guys are doing out in our community and building a whole new, right? Our whole new tomorrow.
Whole new tomorrow. I love that. I want to let you know that Terry did say thank you. This has been a useful discussion.
More than welcome.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, then I'd like to thank you all for a thoughtful and incredibly engaging discussion. This is probably the most engagement we've gotten in our Lunch and Learn. So, and I love to see it. I love the conversation. I love the comments. I love the engagement. So keep it up. But also a really special thank you to Tiffanie for sharing her insights and also her experience. As you know, this session was recorded, and the recording link along with the slide deck and any other handouts that we went over today will be shared later this week. We truly appreciate your participation and look forward to welcoming you at another event soon, hopefully maybe trivia night next week. Don't miss out on trivia night. Before you sign off, I just want to remind you that there will be a brief survey that pops up. I would love for you to take just a moment to fill it out really quick. Your feedback helps us to continue to shape programs and topics that matter most to you. Other than that, I'm going to give you guys 12 minutes of your lunch back. So I'll release you into the wild. Thank you so much for joining us today and hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Do good work.